Hi guys, welcome back if this is your first time here. I'm Dr. Anna Uden. I'm a doctor of clinical psychology and an author of the book The Curse in Their Veins. Today we're going to be talking about my tips for how to renew yourself in the coming year. This is something that I personally practice year after year, because I really love the idea of just like having a point to restart everything. Especially in these cold, dark winter months when we're in deep winter, I love to take the opportunity to just journal, do some soul searching, do some introspecting, and think about who I want to be in the coming year. So I'm going to give you some journaling prompts, some examples of how I do New Year's resolutions, and also some other tips about how to start fresh in the new year, decluttering, things like that. Before we get into anything else, I want to announce that officially as of today, the Personal Growth Journal is out for sale in paperback form. I'm really proud of this mental health journal because it really blends everything that I've learned in the past 5 years of grad school and that I've used myself for journaling when I've been going through hard times. It's what I have used to completely change myself as a person, to kind of glow up in my own psychological development. So it contains 75 journaling prompts for different situations. There are prompts for anxiety, prompts for emotion regulation more generally, prompts for planning, relationships, self-compassion, personal growth, hope, self-exploration, a new start, empowerment, acceptance, grief, cognitive restructuring, and gratitude. The chapter on a new start has a lot of stuff related to new beginnings in the new year. Specifically, we're going to touch on some of those today, actually. Obviously, this one is therapist approved. I have the other one, A Season of Life, which is more of like a daily practice to keep in the habit of keeping positive emotions, but this one is more so for dealing with the more painful emotions that happen in life. And just a quick thing about that, if you're somewhere where Amazon doesn't ship, I do have an ebook version out for that. However, if you do live somewhere where you can easily get the paperback version, I would strongly recommend you to do that instead, just because the formatting is so much better and it's so much better to actually do it on pen and paper, whereas if you get the Kindle version, you kind of have to transcribe everything, and depending on your Kindle settings, it's going to sort of change what is on what page. So, if you can, really get the paperback. And it's no skin off my back saying that, because I actually get more money from the Kindle version, but I'm just being honest, the paperback's going to be way better. So let's talk about some of the journaling prompts that you can do at the turning of the year to develop into a new version of yourself. Hi, Candy. Both cats are circling me, so we'll see what happens. The very first journaling prompt that I have for you is to look over last year's New Year resolutions and see how you did on them. Now, hopefully you have a list. If not, maybe you will for next year. The point is really to just see where you were a year ago, see what your goals were, and see if you accomplished them. And if you didn't accomplish them, that's perfectly fine. You can be self-compassionate about that, and you can acknowledge if maybe you had ambitious goals. There were a couple things on my New Year resolutions list for 2023 that just didn't pan out, and it wasn't anything that I necessarily did. It was just circumstances didn't allow for that. So be gentle with yourself. Understand that it's great to sort of shoot for the stars and land on the moon. Sometimes there are going to be circumstances outside of your control, and the most you can do is just be gentle with yourself and be proud of yourself that you did set these really ambitious goals for yourself, because that's a lot more than a lot of people do. I don't really understand why some people have an aversion to New Year's resolutions, because I think if you're going into resolutions in a self-compassionate way, you're setting really smart goals, which we'll talk about in just a second. It's okay to not meet all your goals. That's totally fine. As long as you put some effort towards them, that's more than enough. Now, when you look over your last year's resolutions, don't just look at them and say, here's what I failed at and here's what I succeeded at. Try to troubleshoot too. Look at the stuff that you didn't accomplish and ask yourself, why is that? What was it about these specific goals that I wasn't able to meet? Were there things that I maybe could have done differently? Were there things about the circumstances that couldn't be changed? Whatever it was, is there a way to set myself up for success better next time? What were the obstacles that came in, and how do I overcome them? Now, the second thing I do after I look at last year's resolutions is I look towards the coming year. I set new resolutions. So in the Personal Growth Journal, I have a New Year's resolutions prompt. I talk about splitting up your resolutions into different categories. So for me, the categories are usually career, self-improvement, leisure, and health. That's how it makes sense to think of in my brain, but for you it could look different. So maybe for you the categories are school, family, other relationships, whatever categories you see these falling into, that's totally fine. You can input that for yourself. But what is really important is that you have SMART goals. I'm going to put on the screen what a SMART goal is. Let me see if I can remember. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I think I got those. So as long as your goals are all of those 5 things, hopefully that will set you up for better assessing, did you actually accomplish them at the end of the year, and for actually implementing them. So, if you just say like, oh, I want to be more assertive. Okay, what does that mean exactly? How do you quantify that? How do you know if a year from now you achieved that versus I'm going to start saying no when I really mean no? Obviously, that's still like a little hard to quantify, but you can maybe like track it in a journal somewhere. You could figure out how many times did I say no this year compared to last year. So fill out your New Year's resolutions in here. And like I said, I usually get pretty ambitious with New Year's resolutions, and honestly, they usually work out. And the reason for that is that you have to actually take action towards them. It is not enough to just put them out there into the ether and expect for them to materialize on their own. No, you very much have to make it a habit of every single day to take small steps towards those goals. One really important piece of this is to make it a part of your identity and a part of your routine. Part of your routine, pretty straightforward, pick a specific time of the day to do that thing. Let's say that you want to start jade rolling on your face, silly example, but maybe that is something that you want to do next year. When exactly are you going to do that? Are you going to do it first thing in the morning after you just did your skincare? Are you going to do it right before bed? Pick a specific time, set a timer if you need to, set an alarm every day for it, and do it day after day after day until it embeds itself into your routine. And you kind of know A comes first, B comes second, C comes third, and so on and so forth. You know exactly in what order to do things. Now, the second part I mentioned, you want to make it a part of your identity. The most important words that you say to yourself are, I am blank. Who you think that you are in your head, although it doesn't always necessarily correlate to reality, like maybe you think you're a really terrible person and you're actually really lovely. The story you tell yourself, the narrative you give about who you are as a person is hugely important in determining what you're actually going to do with yourself. So if you say, I'm a person who's very health conscious, if you tell yourself that, if you get that image in your head of yourself as a very health conscious person, chances are you're going to make more healthy, conscious decisions. So maybe make a list of all the things you need to believe about yourself in order to accomplish those resolutions. For instance, if your New Year's resolution for next year is to open up your own business, say, I am a businesswoman. Tell that to yourself. Look in the mirror and truly see yourself embodying a businesswoman. Third journaling prompt that I want to give you is, where was I a year ago versus where am I now? This one is really fun because you get to look back on how much you've grown and how much has changed for the better in most cases compared to a year ago. And you can even do this with 5 years ago. Sometimes that's even more stark of a contrast to realize like, oh my God, 5 years ago, I was such a different person. I was in such different circumstances. Things are so much better now. Think about in terms of career or work, how are things different? In terms of personality, in terms of friendship, family, other types of relationships, in terms of your health, how you're spending your free time, everyday habits, like maybe you keep your home more clean now versus a year ago. Think about all those things just to kind of give yourself an excuse to hype yourself up and to look at how far you've come to motivate you for even more change in the coming year. Next journaling prompt that I have is actually very emotional. So I have this thing where I wrote letters to myself to open in, I think, 2025 and 2027. And I wrote them in like maybe 2020, 2021. I can actually show them to you, one sec. I wrote this one in 2020 and I dated it for myself in 2025. So I only have about a year until I can open this and I'm really excited to see what it says. Then I have this one for myself in 2027 that it looks like I actually forgot to date when I wrote this. So that's a little unfortunate. Hopefully it says it inside the letter. But let me explain what this journaling prompt even is. And this one is actually in the personal growth journal as well. So if you want to check that out, I will put a link in the description box and in a pinned comment. In that letter, I want you to write all of your hopes and dreams about where you hope you will be in 5 years or even longer. Like this year, this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to write myself a letter to open when I'm 70 years old. If, everything goes as planned and I make it to that lovely age, I cannot wait to see what I wrote to myself when I was almost 27. Can you imagine how powerful that will be at age 70 to open up a letter from decades before, see how much you've grown, how much has changed, how much of your dreams came true? Or even if they didn't come true, it's like a portal to another time that you get to open up, and you get to see what your dreams and hopes were at that time. I imagine it's going to feel really, really emotional when you finally open up. And I know I'm probably going to bawl my eyes out just writing the letter, thinking about myself at 70 and how all my dreams will have come true. And in that letter, I want you to write as vividly as possible, using all 5 senses, using everything that you can see and feel inside you, what exactly your future is going to be. And when you open that, you might just find that a lot of your dreams came true because you took part in these daily habits day after day after day. Those are some journaling prompts that I have for you. Cannoli, I think it's his first Christmas tree. We don't actually know who his family was before us, before he had his leg amputated, so we don't know if they celebrated Christmas or not, but it sure looks like the first time he's seen a tree. Now let's talk about something that's not necessarily a journaling prompt, but I think is important. Shedding everything that you don't need. Decluttering everything. And I'm talking physically, mentally, emotionally, all of it. In order to make room for new growth, you have to shed what no longer serves you. Clutter is kind of like weeds in a garden. If you don't trim them, then there's no room for healthy, beautiful plants to grow, for beautiful flowers to sprout. You need to shed in order to grow. You can't have one without the other. You have to have both. So like I said, I am talking physical items. I'm talking about any clothes or shoes that you haven't worn in a year. I'm talking about household items that you don't love or couldn't see yourself bringing if you were to suddenly move homes. Anything that's not absolutely necessary, doesn't bring joy to your life. When you look at your closet, kind of imagine this is my old era, and then think about, what do I want to be the next era? Who is the next version of me? What would she wear? What would she not wear? Like maybe that fishnet crop top that you wore one time at a rave 6 years ago. Maybe it's time to let that one go. Maybe it's time to replace it with some nice tailored pants instead. Even things as basic as trimming unhealthy ends of your hair can be a way of shedding to make new room for growth. I had someone who chopped off a third of my hair back in April, and it was horrifying. I was super angry and at a loss for a long time, but it grew out healthier and faster than ever, because even though my hair wasn't necessarily unhealthy before it all happened, once it all got cut off, it was extremely, extremely healthy. There's something to be said about minimalism in the sense that you're kind of practicing non-attachment to objects that bring you happiness, because at any given moment, things could change. A war could break out, or another COVID epidemic where suddenly you might have to move to another country, drop everything that you have. Economy comes crashing down. I'm not trying to be catastrophic, but things could happen at any given moment that force you to let go of your material belongings. So the more you can practice non-attachment to those belongings, I think the less you'll suffer when inevitably you do have to give some things up. Maybe not to that extreme of an extent, but you're gonna have to, at some point, give up some of the things that you love. Try to buy more activities and trips and vacations as Christmas presents, for instance, or birthday presents or whatever for your loved ones, and to also ask for that to receive, instead of physical items that are just gonna clutter up your space and make you feel attached to them in a way that's not healthy. But we're not just talking about physical things. I also think there's something to be said about shedding relationships that no longer serve you. Doing like a maybe New Year inventory of the relationships in your life, seeing what's working, what's not, if there's something you want to work on in a specific relationship, or if maybe you want to distance yourself from a specific relationship, make room for new growth. We're also talking about mental decluttering. So putting your phone in another room when you're watching TV so that you can be present, one thing at a time. Putting your phone on Do Not Disturb automatically during certain hours so that you don't even have to think about it. It's just not even turning on. Spending more time meditating. These are examples of things that will sort of declutter your mind and free up more space inside your brain to use it doing things that you love and that will get you further in life. So those are my tips for how to make the most of the coming New Year transition. I definitely want to know what your resolutions are, so please put that in the comments if you feel comfortable sharing. And if you want, I can also put mine, so let me know about that. Don't forget to buy the personal growth journal if that's something you want to do. If you are considering buying it, buying it during the first few days is super, super helpful because it will help me get on the best-selling list on Amazon. So, just something to consider, but no pressure. I hope you have a lovely new year, lovely holiday season, and see you soon.